that there was a friend of mine, a little dear friend. Hi there, baby. She likes me for some reason. She's always coming around me. I don't know. Isn't that kind of interesting? She follows me a little bit, and then she'll go away. But anyway, I come to kind of show a little bit on the inside of how do I know a road work this thing, this stealth camping deal. And how I go about doing it is like spent a lot of time over the months and over the years even stocking up my storage unit. I got a storage unit. I keep paid off. That's a big part of it. And not a lot of social services and things around here, and you know, in a way, I kind of like it that way because if there was, there'd be a lot more people doing this, and there'd be a lot of tent cities and stuff. It's real bad news. But how I do this is I stored up a lot of stuff like canned food and so on and so forth, and I got some right here. Now I'm in a spot right now. It's worked for me a lot, and I don't want to blow it. I want to get busted here and then be trespassed out of the area. And then suddenly the guy puts cameras, like trail cams, and puts all these, like, you know, no trespassing signs. And then I can't use it anymore. So I want to keep my track record clean around here. And, you know, I'm pretty good at what I do. And I got good instincts for it. So, hey, what's so what I've decided to do is plan ahead, and I'm planning on a move to another stealthing location that I feel is a little bit less likely to get busted. So, what I did is I went a few minutes ago to my storage unit. I cut my finger, by the way. It'll get better. But I went to my storage unit and got myself a sack of canned goods, like a couple of days' supply. Got myself another jug of water. I got like 30 some jugs of water stored away in my storage unit. I've got probably, you know, bags and bags of this canned food, protein powders and stuff like that. So now what I'm going to do, I went over and shut my door back up, and then I walked back over here, and then after dark I'm going to sneak down about a half a mile or so away, and I'm going to get the process going of stocking up another campsite. And I'm going to have water. I've already got two jugs of water there, and I got one can of food there, and I got some cardboard that I can use to kind of lay on when I set my tent up, and that'll keep the condensation down to a minimum. Beneath, you know, the sleeping bag, it gets kind of moist and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how I do it, and I just wanted to make this video real short, and just to kind of, I don't know, it's Noah Road, right? So this is kind of how I do it around here, especially when I'm near the storage unit. Now, when I venture off, you know, I don't have the storage unit, so I try to stock up on the fly. I don't have as much stuff to work with, but I kind of do have the same system. I'll find canned goods for free, and I'll kind of stock up on them, and then I'll stash them in the woods, and then I start finding water jugs. Sometimes I have to do, you know, I usually don't drink tap water, so I like to camp in areas where there's spring water, like spouts, and there's a spring. But if I don't have that, sometimes I just have to lean on, you know, tap water, you know, and I'll grab two or three jugs that I find, and I'll start filling those up with some tap water, and then I'll take them and the food that I collect, and I'll stash it around in a certain area that I know I'm going to be camping in. I'll bring, you know, do a cardboard run and things, and I'll kind of cut certain uh, branches that are in the way and stuff, and get that all cleared out. And then when I get there, everything's just kind of in place and waiting for me. So that's, you know, how I do it. And this here is part of that process that's really in action right now as we speak. I thought it would be kind of cool just to put a video up. And I want to make this short because, you know, who wants to watch an hour video or anything? And cool, how you doing? My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Zaire Moore. That's an interesting name. Um, just thanks for saying hi. But yeah, this is a process of how I live on the stealth camping. It helps a whole lot if you have a storage unit and you got really good instincts. Instincts are really important, which is something that I was kind of born with, or I don't know, maybe they happened over time. But I knew I was going to be a stealth camper and a drifter and a backpacker when I was like 8 and 10 and 11 and 12 years old and stuff. I just knew it. And so those kind of instincts were kind of, for some reason, they're like in my DNA, and I never fit in. I never ever found a place that worked for me or anything. So this is like where it works, and I feel most alive. I mean, I've already lost an inch off my waist in the last uh, 4 days, I think, you know. My muscles are a little bit sore because I just came out of an apartment. I haven't stayed in an apartment. I'm like that long in a real long time. I was homeless. Like I did a 3-year stretch of this stealth camping with very minimal time off of the road, but that was a good long stretch, and I really needed it. I really needed it. If I didn't take that time, I don't know if I'd be up and running like I am. I'm doing pretty good and I'm pretty happy with it. How I'm adapting, adjusting back to this self camping lifestyle. So, yeah, anyways, this right on the fly, I probably could have taken the phone to the storage unit and actually showed the process of me putting a bag together and stuff. And I thought about it and then I didn't. And then when I got here, I said, maybe it's kind of important, just to record this, you know. Maybe somebody will see this because people are finding it more and more impossible to live in apartments anymore because the prices are just outrageous and everything. So you can do this, it just takes a little money to get to get a start. You can get a storage unit, start stocking it up, spend a few months, stocking it up with food, canned food and stuff. Now, obviously, it's more complicated if you live in the north, like I do in the state of Pennsylvania. We got a pretty tough winter, so things get more complicated, but it's basically still the same. Like in the deep freeze, if I'm out, I have to put my jug of water down into the sleeping bag with me, and these are the only kind of jugs I really get. Really tough and really good caps, so they don't come undone. Heaven forbid if that ever happened, If you're got one of those jugs of water in your sleeping bag and it's like the deep freeze and all of a sudden you're sleeping in the middle of the night, you kind of bump into the jug the wrong way and the cap pops off, while it's in your sleeping bag, man, you are in trouble. And that's why I always carry these really good strong jugs, and I got 40 of them um, in my storage unit. I probably got about 28 of them, 27 of them filled with water. And I got a bunch of them kind of around the area. I got a couple of them that are empty, like right there. That's empty, and that's probably been there for a couple of years. I just stash them here and there because I know that I might be out one of these days with nothing. And I'm like, man, I better have some of these good jugs because the jugs, you get in a lot of these stores are junk and they got pop off caps and everything. And this here, look at how I tie the jug. When I do my backpacking around, on the road and stuff, when I leave this area where I don't have a storage unit, I carry a full jug in one hand while I'm packing. I don't like, just carrying a little tiny amount and stuff. So, and I like to have a big bedroll too. So that's something that separates me from a lot of other people. A lot of backpackers, they somehow manage to get their backpacks like 35 pounds or something. I don't know how they do it, but they usually sacrifice water and bedroll. They usually have a really flimsy bedroll in order to do it. And then they got these little flimsy, pants that probably cost over $100 or something like that. And they get the weight down that way. But yeah, I'm just spending a couple of weeks working up to where I can maybe do a little traveling. But what's what I'm going to do now? Tonight, when the sun goes down, I'm going to walk out of here so nobody notices me. I'll be under the cover of dark. And I'm going to go to a stealth camp that I've used previous. I know the area really good. And I'm going to start stocking that camp up. And I know in a day or two, it's going to be time to leave this spot because I don't want to get busted here. You know, it's a little more likely for me to get busted here than it is at the other spot. The other spot's not as convenient for me because this spot's closer to my storage units. So that's why I'm really grabbing some food, and you know, I'm not going to have the convenience. Here is my stealth camp. It's a lot of this is stuff that I find on the ground, and then I build a blind up. So if anybody comes by on this side, they won't see. And I build a blind up on this side here. Look at all this. It's just a bunch of branches you see that I find with foliage on it. And here is my tent. A cheap tent will do, and you're actually better off with cheap tents because you lose them. You know what I'm saying? Zippers break, or they get ripped or vandalized. You just never know what might. You could get arrested. Heaven forbid, it could happen. And this here is really important. You see this? How I got that tied? Sometimes I don't even use a tent. You know, I you know, don't like that because the bugs eat you alive and everything. But yeah, this is always how I set up the tarps. You want to have the water go that way and that way, and you don't really have to have. You see how these are tied to trees? That's nice and convenient. But you can actually set an X-frame and then have like a tripod bar, and then you could lay a runner beam between the X-frame on this side and the X-frame on this side, and basically drape this tarp over the runner beam and then tie it down at the corners and then do some kind of a middle tie. But this middle tie is really important, and I have it on the back side too. I think you can see it. Yeah, you see that? Because that keeps the water running off that way and that way. And you can actually get water if it's raining really hard from these corners. You can put a gallon jug of water and fill your jug back up. Just kind of clean all that up, you know, because you get dust and, you know, little leaf debris and everything in your water. But yeah, that's how I live. You know, I live like this sometimes for many months and even more than a year at a stretch. And then, you know, I'll find a way to get off of the streets for maybe 4 months or something like that, just to rest my body and recover. But yeah, this is it. So I'm going to be heading up the, you know, heading out of here about a half a mile away, and I'm going to start stocking up this another camp so that it can be nice and ready for Old Noah Road when I get there. And I might be leaving tomorrow to go do that. And even if I didn't use it, it's still good to have that stuff there, because let's say I didn't use it tomorrow. Let's say I changed my plan, changed my mind. Well, let's say 3 months from now, I came back and I'd be like, oh, that stuff is there. Great. You see, and that's how I do it. It's really cool. And I have, when I'm going good, I haven't had all of my camps built up like that in quite a while. But I sometimes have 4 or 5 different camps that are built up like that in an area, spread out, you know, over a 5-6 mile area. And I'll just, you know, stock this one up with water and stock that one up with water just in case I happen to need it, you know. Sometimes I'll stock it up with a, like a rope and a tarp or something like that, an emergency cheap tarp that I could just put up really fast, you know. If I was walking by, here I am, I don't have a home or all that stuff, so I might be walking by the area and it starts to rain and I'm tired. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go run over to such and such camp, and I name these camps, you know. I'll have like A camp, and I got, you know, camp White Pine and Camp Midway, and, you know, I got the different names for the camps. And then I spend all that time just stocking them up and everything. And yeah, the one thing I will say, living around here, at least in this area, when and pulling it off the way I do, it definitely requires like real natural instincts. That's one thing. But two, you know, you got to have some backup. You got to have like a storage unit of backup clothes, backup socks, backup, you know, boots when they get wet. If your tent got vandalized or ripped apart by a bear or something, you know, you want to have replacement socks, especially. You know, every time you get money or every time you see free socks in a church bin or something, grab those sockers, put them in a bag and take them to your storage unit. Someday you'll need them. you know, and that's kind of how it works with me. And I go in there and I got a lot of stuff, you know. I even got emergencies, you know, stuff that I can use for traps and stuff. I hope I would never have to do it, but you know, if I had to trap animals or something, I got little traps, and I would. I'm not that. I'm not very brutal. I don't like hunting and all that stuff, but I would if I had to, because I am, you know, human, and we are have the privilege of being at the top of the food chain. You know what I mean? Not everybody likes that, and you know, it's not a pleasant thing to have to do that. You know, sometimes we have to do unpleasant things to survive in this fallen world that we live in, right? But anyways, I guess I just want to end on that note. I don't want to have this too long because I would like this up on my videos to just so people can watch. And you know, they're more likely to watch a 15-minute video than they will like an hour and a half. And you know, these live videos, they kind of suck. They're choppy, you know. So I don't know. I hope it works out good. It's the only way I can stay in touch now because my iCloud is all messed up and it won't let me record any long videos. Once in a while, after I delete a bunch of stuff and I shut the phone off and turn it back on, and maybe after it clears for about weeks or a month, then sometimes it'll let me like film an 8 or a 10 minute or a 5 minute video. Once in a while it does. And you know, but it's really hard to deal because it keeps saying that the iCloud is full. So I think what it is I need a new phone, or I need to have some expert look at it, you know. And this is just a 5-year-old iPhone, and my sister, before I used it, you know, she probably used it for more than a year, and then she wanted me to have a phone just so I could keep in touch. And then she sent it to me in the mail, and I'm actually on her family plan. I'm not even paying for this. And um, yeah, yeah. That's. I'm glad that you stay in touch, Chris. I hope you're having a good. It's winter down there where you're at, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't think you're too cold where you're at. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But anyways, enough about Old Noah Road here. I guess I got to get ready to do this. This is like reconnaissance. That's what it is. The Marines in America, they call it reconnaissance, where they go and they prep an area before they go for the other military teams. So the Marines are the reconnaissance that prepare the area ahead of time for the Army and other, you know, branches of military service during times of war. Way, you know, that's kind of what I'm doing in a small way. I'm doing a little bit of stealth camping reconnaissance, and this is how I do it. Yes, winter here. Yeah, yeah. That proves that we are not on a flat Earth, as some people say. If it was such a flat Earth, why would it? And the sun only moved around a little bit like this, and then went back into the center of the Earth. Then how could there be winter in Australia and summer up in the northern hemisphere? You see what I'm saying? So, is it cold where you're at? Does it get kind of snowy and stuff where you're at in New South Wales? Hmm. Well, anyways, bless your heart, friend. And I'm gonna get rolling. I'm gonna keep this video so maybe somebody in the future will watch it. If I had the iCloud or a new one, snow on mountain. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna get a new iCloud, and I won't even get a new YouTube channel. I actually got a vision, something. It's like, you know, I like the Noahide path. You know what I'm saying? Like Judaism for non-Jews, and how the Judaism that's applicable for non-Jews, and you know, a sort of eclectic path like that. I really like it, and I would like to actually get rid of this phone, get on a new plan where it's my own, and start a new channel, and I call it this Noah's Summit, a Noahide perspective. That would be really cool. The whole entire channel is just devoted to, you know, the Noahide stuff. But I don't have the audience for it here, and I don't know. It's just I just don't feel like I can really express myself and be myself on this channel. No, I would like to have a place of like a family environment for people who identify with that path, and got a lot of answers where a lot of people don't. I don't know, but anyways, I don't want to trough off on that stuff. But yeah, this is it. So I'm gonna walk this down and start prepping a new camp. This is just life on the road as I know it. So anyways, Chris, I'm gonna let you go so I can keep. And plus, I gotta watch the battery pour, of course. Oh, if you go back to the beginning of this video, whenever it uploads, there's a deer. It comes right up here to me here, and it keeps following me around. I think it's alone, and you know how deers, they usually have families, like 5 or 6 or 8 of them running together. This deer is always alone, and it keeps coming up and just looking at me and getting really close. And I filmed it at first before I started talking. I think just before you got on, I had it. It was there, and I'm like, wow, see, that's this deer that keeps following me. And it was just there, like just a little past this tree, and it was just standing there and made an appearance. And it was really calm and everything, and it walked up to me, when it saw me. So this is kind of an interesting deer we have here. And I call it my deer friend, and I named her Nora. I'm pretty sure she's female. She's a doe, and I think, I don't know, she lost her clan or something. She's an outcast or something, and I think she's looking to me as for a friend or something. Poor thing. I hope she doesn't get shot in the fall, because that's what they do here. All this property here, it's just for hunting and stuff, and in the fall they hunt them. Poor thing. Well, anyways, God bless your friend, and anybody who's watching, perhaps in the future. Noah Road. Over and out for now. I'm saving battery power too. All right.